Okay, so talking about balance and what balance is made up of. We've got our vestibular system, we've got our neuromuscular system, and that's involved in all sorts of proprioceptors and just mechanoreceptors, and then we have our eyes as well. In different environments, these systems are biased a little bit differently. The vestibular system is going to be a little bit more about like head orientation, trying to keep your eyes level with the horizon. Your neuromuscular system is going to be a little bit more about, well, if my leg's over here, am I aware that it's over there? Or maybe I think it's there, but it's actually over here. And that can be affected by previous injuries or, certain sort of work postures, or maybe a bias to like certain sporting movements or sporting techniques. For example, if I play tennis and I only swing with that right hand into my forehand, that movement's going to become very biased. Or even say golf, for example, if I'm always rotating the same way, then I'm not going to have the same symmetry to go the other way. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, it's just an adaptation to the things you've been trying to do. But what it can do is change how you control your center of mass over your base of support. So your center of mass is a couple centimeters below your belly button. And if you drew a line from the front through to the back, you're looking at kind of L4, L5 territory. And this is an area where we see a lot of injuries in the back, also L5, S1. But it's an area where if you lose control, then what's your ability to regain control? At what point do you actually lose control? Maybe I'm good here, but as soon as I get onto one leg, I've just lost everything and I'm super sloppy through my movement. Maybe I'm good here, but until I start to jump or land or run or change direction, we start to lose control. And it's subtle. And the significance of what I'm saying is that you can't get the feedback to actually correct what's going on. And a lot of these corrections are reflexive. So if something's reflexive, that means that you've gone somewhere or something's happened that's created a reflexive response. So by nature, it means that you're not going somewhere. You're not entering something. You're not getting that response. So let's see, and depending on your age or previous injuries or how safe you feel, maybe have something nearby to hold on to, like a wall or a chair. And we'll just start testing out this control of your mass, your center of mass, over your base of support. Now right now, my base of support is the width of my feet this way, and then the length of my feet this way. So right now, my center of mass, right here, if you dropped a plumb line down, it's right in between my feet. It's not necessarily towards the front of my feet. It's not necessarily towards the back of my feet. It's right smack bang in the middle. So if I start shifting my mass, this point here, outside of it, biasing it to one side, what happens? Do you lose your balance? Maybe you start getting into some of your previous shoulder pain or neck pain. You start to grab through here to try and keep yourself from falling over. Maybe I shift forward and I feel like I can't stop that. Yes, the toes are going to grip. That's a reflexive response. But maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe you fall forward and you take a step. Maybe you go backwards. You shift your hips back and you're like, whoa, I can't do that. And you take a step. So these are good strategies you have to stop you from falling over. If you go beyond that and you don't have that response and you fall over, that's when we start to see some issues. If we move to one leg, so this could be running, walking. Maybe I've landed and then I go into my next push-off phase. During that movement, my mass has shifted from one foot to the other. Is it over this triangle on my foot? My big toe, my little toe, and my heel. Is that plumb line straight down over the center of my foot? And if it's not, then you're probably not going to shift as much weight that way. If you don't shift as much weight, you don't get as much of a stretch response through those muscle spindles, and then you don't get as much of a awareness to then propel yourself. So you get a reduction in power. You also might lose your balance. So if I'm here and I land, can I be centered over my foot and maintain my balance? If I challenge that, someone comes and knocks me on a sports field, or I'm walking through a busy mall and I get a little bit of a bump, can I stay stable or do I fall over? Maybe you fall this way, maybe this way. Maybe you fall forward, maybe you fall back. There's lots of ways to challenge it. You could then get into some jumping. If all that stuff felt quite easy, and you could fall forward and catch yourself. Do you stay there? Or do you kind of go short and you just land on your heel? Or you land very hard on your heel? Do you go in straight into the forefoot? And you go and you land and then you fall forward. Maybe you fall sideways. We've got some videos on how to progress that kind of rehab in our jumping ones, our single leg jumping and our clock jumps. But this initially is just an assessment to see where do you lose it. You might find that one foot, absolutely fine, no problem. But every time you go onto this foot, you're just like, what is going on? You can't control yourself. Sometimes just doing that enough times will get better. But if you're finding that you're just hitting roadblocks and the more you practice it, it actually gets worse, there might be some structures in there that your body's just really avoiding loading, and someone might need to guide you in terms of where you need to lengthen and where you need to shorten, and that'll enable your joints to stack a little better, and your awareness will be a little better, and then your balance will be a little better, and then your performance will be a little better. So this kind of carries on from some of our foot pressure stuff into how we then control our mass in a bit more of a dynamic environment. So this will be assessment number 2, and just see how you go with this and see what it reveals.